We get it done.
Okay. Let me. But I do have some more light in here, so let me try to.
Go ahead.
Well, it'd be fun to do.
All right. Here we go. All right. How you doing?
Try to make it, bro. How are you?
Good. You know.
Well, whatever. You know what? We're gonna keep going. You good?
I'm good. How you doing?
Can't complain. You ready?
Yep, ready to run.
Promise Ma'am, Papa Podcast, Blab TV. That is it. You know what it is. Hey, we are live. We're live. We are live. And I just met this brother. Where are you at?
I'm currently in upstate New York. I live in Brooklyn, and for right now, I'm up in Westchester County. I'm going to a mineral and crystal show tomorrow. That's in Orange County. So we're out here exploring the world.
That's it. I'm in Florida. And we linked up. How did this happen? I'll tell you how this happened. Because you never know when you're going to shake that hand and somebody else is going to sit here and say, yo, you need to get on this podcast and let's see what's up. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'm glad you brought me on. One of the positive uses of social media that you can meet folks all around the country and build.
Yeah, definitely. So let everybody know what you do and how they can benefit from what you do.
Oh, that's a really good question. So first, I'm one of the co-founders of Black Land Ownership. See the gear. Boom. And we are a grassroots community-based organization that wants to centralize resources, give people the information, and encourage folks of African descent to own land. And we keep it that simple. Whether it's like learning the legalities of it, whether it's meeting architects, engineers, real estate folks, people in development, farmers, conservationists, and then giving people the history on what's happened and why we don't own the land that we should. And we want to advocate for people that have been marginalized from land ownership.
Why is that so important? I know why, but let the listeners know why. Land ownership.
How do we address a lot of the social issues that we face as a community? And I know Black folks aren't monolithic. I know that depending on where you are in the country, how you grow up, what's important to you may be different. But the way the police engage with us, our school system, our food stability, all these things root in land ownership and control of your environment and being autonomous, being able to dictate how your life is affected by the community around you. And that's land ownership in America, where capitalism is rooted in capital and land is the foundation of capital.
We ain't playing around. I think some knowledge is about to be dropped. I think some jewels are about to be dropped. I think somebody is going to be awakened by this information.
Yeah.
So
I want to just thank you for bringing us on and giving me a chance to talk about this. I get excited about it.
Hey, you look like it, man. Go ahead. Like, speak your piece, man. Speak your piece right now. Go ahead.
I mean, if I were to say one thing to people out there is if we could figure it out, I know you can. I've made art my entire adult life. I don't have a trust fund. I don't come from a family of farmers or for money. I've been living in New York for 12 years. So the idea of ownership is like, you can't buy land in New York State, but you can. And it may take collective work. It may take a lot of education. It may take a little effort, but we can do it as community and work collectively.
One of the biggest things, I'm from Florida. Rick Ross has a song out there called Buy Back the Block.
Mm-hmm.
You're living that every day. What, like, have you heard that song before?
Yeah.
When he was saying these messages, what was the first thing you were thinking about?
There are two things. One is there are all these sentiments of let's get out of the hood. Let's leave the community. And I understand wanting to get away from violence. I understand wanting safety and adequate health care and adequate resources, but also that neighborhood's valuable. We leave it and other folks move into it and it gets fixed up and they become millionaires.
100%.
So when we buy up the block, then that lets us cycle the money. That allows us to actually provide jobs for our uncles, our nephews, our nieces, our daughters, if you have kids. And then the second part is for people who don't necessarily need to live in big cities. I grew up thinking I don't want to move to the country. That's like dangerous. White people out there are crazy. As Black people, we want to live in cities and work in offices. And why do we want to go back to the farm? And I had to get over that and realize there's a lot of space in this country. There's a lot of land. And with technology, we can do a lot.
You are from the city. You are from one of the biggest cities in the world.
Yeah.
So for you to say that means something more to me who grew up in a small city in the South. You know, like there's this stigma. You know what I'm saying? It's a stigma of like, oh, you know, and like even me being in North Carolina, there's a stigma of like, oh, you're Bama.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, don't get that twisted. Like there's a lot of work that is there. There's a lot of economic value that is there. And for you to be from a big city and saying like, you know what, it ain't that bad. You know what, there is growth that can happen there. You know, that means something. That means something. So you just hit on a really good point right there, bro.
I think I'm lucky. I lived in Atlanta, and when I lived in Georgia, I met people from Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas. I had a chance to travel to those places. And one thing Northerners may not remember, the majority of Black people still live down South.
Definitely.
And so when we try to separate from the South, and when we say, well, the South is bad because of racism and this and that, there's beauty down South. There's beautiful people down South, and there's space for us to do what we cannot do up North.
Definitely.
And some of these big cities up North haven't been beneficial for us. They may have utilized us for labor, or they may have utilized us for their political purposes, but the majority of this country is not the Northeast. Like, there's a lot of space. There's a lot of dope people out there.
Definitely.
And it's something that, as a musician, I've been lucky to travel and meet people all over, and they welcomed me everywhere I went. And so I've been through North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Arkansas. I've been to probably 35 to 40 out of the 50 states. And everywhere I went, it was dope people.
Wow.
But I also noticed the Black people were getting erased. And so I don't really focus on gentrification or one specific issue, but I did look and say, like, we used to have communities in California that aren't there anymore. We used to have communities in parts of Texas that aren't there anymore. We used to have communities in parts of Florida that aren't there anymore. Why? And part of it was, are we being reminded to own the land? Stop renting. Like, save up money, work collectively, start community land trust, start real estate investment trust. Use the reality of paperwork and bureaucracy to our advantage.
Mm-hmm. No one's saying, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. You know, because like Wi-Fi be acting up, whatever. Because like when we get into some real deep conversation, you know, the Wi-Fi be messing up.
Oh, you already know. That's you start talking real spit, and all of a sudden it's Fritz, can't work.
Exactly. But guess what? We're going to keep it going because that's what we gotta do. Now, when you're talking about go back to the trust, the land trust thing. Yeah. One of the people, and if you don't know, wait, let me go ahead and do a shameless plug. Promise Mangum, renovatepensacola.com. You know, it's a platform for Black contractors, Black plumbers, black electricians. I want y'all to come on the platform and just talk about certain issues or whatever. And we're right here in Northwest Florida, and it's like I want people to talk about that because there's a big need for electricians, a big need for plumbers, a big we have more work out here, and it's like people can't get houses and stuff done right now, and it's because we're not educated enough on that. So I wanted to put that out there first. Secondly, there's a company. Hold on one second. It is I have it, and boom. Pensacola Heritage Title. Pensacola Heritage Title, black-owned company, and they are very forward-thinking when it comes to land ownership, when it comes to building up community, like you're doing up there in New York. I met this brother, I want to say 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, whatever. I was just like, yeah, man, I'm gonna get this thing going. And then we kept bumping into each other real quick. And it's like he could tell that I'm a little bit different because, like I said, I've been gone for 9 years. So the way I'm talking, the way, I move or whatever, or the way I present myself when it comes to the business stuff, it was different than how most people are around here. So going back to that title thing, what is one thing that you teach folk when it comes to that ownership, or when it comes to collective ownership? Because that's a big thing too. I might not have X amount of dollars and be able to buy this property by myself. Like how do you work through that stuff?
So learning the vocabulary. I've been a renter for 12 years. Before that, I was renting in DC. Before that, I was renting in Atlanta. So 12 years in New York. And so once I left my mom's house, so from 96 till now, I have been renting. So I don't know the vocabulary. So the first thing I had to learn was what's the deed, what's the title, how do you establish those things? You see things on the movies where a person buys a building in a day. It doesn't work like that, And so the first thing I had to learn.
Say that one more time. You kind of skipped that real quick.
Yeah, you see things in like the movies where people buy a building in a day, and you can't do that. Like, to get the title clear takes whoever knows how long, and there are only so many title companies. So the first thing I had to do was learn, what is the title? What is the deed? What is it that proves you're allowed to sell a property? What are the government offices that stamp it? What is building code, zoning? I didn't know any of this stuff. And so if people come to us, the first thing we start talking to them about is, how familiar are they with the language, with the jargon? What experience do they have? And to look within their family, because most likely, if you have a large enough family, somebody has some property they didn't do anything with. And the first thing you have to learn how to do is clear title.
A lot of things happen down here, like 65 miles away in Mobile, where, black people will have the land, own it or whatever, and then people will die off or whatever. They didn't say nothing, and those percentages actually got sold back to the city, and then people will come in. Okay, I'm gonna buy this, and they will just start picking them off. And it's like, it may take 15 years or whatever, but it's like now it's like I got 100 acres or more for pennies on a dollar because nobody knew what to do. And those are big issues in the black community.
I would say it's not only in the black community, but we were affected with a different purpose. So when land transfers happen, a lot of it might be through inheritance.
Yeah.
And there were courthouses that didn't allow us to do the paperwork. And so it was word of mouth contracts. So 50 years later, people can dispute that. And these big companies hire lawyers. You can do partition sales where they get part of the family to sell part of it, and then they can force out the other members.
Exactly.
So we had to learn about heirs laws. We had to learn about partition sales. We had to learn about clearing title. We had to learn about getting a title made if there was no written documents or if there were floods. If you were down in Louisiana, right?
Yep.
Buildings flooded. And so records were destroyed and people challenged and contested our lands and took it from us. And so I think understanding title and being able to clear title and working out family issues, because you got a big family, there's 13 cousins. If all 13 own a percentage of a plot of land, doing anything with that land is very difficult.
Definitely.
And so it's figuring out how to negotiate that, how to navigate that, and work through it.
Amazing. Like how you've really broken it down, you know. And I know this ain't free game. I know it ain't. Like, I mean, there are a lot of people who have issues, as you say. What's the greater good? You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get it. Like, what's the greater good? Like, is it keeping this land? Is it holding this grudge? Huh?
I'm literally in my own family. We have a tiny, almost worthless plot of land out in Maryland. And when me and my partner were like, if we're going to tell other Black people to do this, we need to do it first. Let's save our money. And again, I don't save money. I have to spend it all on rent, on food, on medical care. I am not a person where I have disposable income like that.
Definitely.
But I can stop going to the bar. I can not buy those J's. I can figure out how over 2 years, save a couple $1,000s, work more, and let's try to buy this land. And the first thing that happened was my aunt, uncle, and mom were arguing over who has the right to sell it.
To sell it?
Yeah. And I'm like, y'all, none of y'all are using it. It was our great-grandmother's land. Y'all don't care.
Not the argument of who's going to be able to take it over and do whatever with it. Who's going to sell it so we can get this money real quick?
And it's so little money that it's a principal issue of their relationship, that they just have like stuff from when they were younger they got to sort out. And that's real.
100%.
That's what happens when people are 60, 70, 80 years old. And
man, ain't going to let it go.
Won't let it go. Won't.
These are the precursors of generational curses, I think.
And so in a way, though, this issue is forcing my family to communicate again in a way they weren't, because me and my partner didn't give up. When we first brought it up and I was like, oh, wow, y'all not going to make it easy. Like my uncle literally was like, I have the right to sell it. You're going to have to pay market value and no payment plans. And I looked at him like, what? But then my aunt and mom were like, he can't sell it anyway. So before we even get to that, and I'm like, fine, let's get the lawyer. And everyone's like, no, lawyers cost money.
Everybody wants to be the big shot, and nobody wants to do the work to be the big shot. Wow.
So we're trying to work it out. I'm negotiating between the three of them. I'm researching the family plot to find out who actually owns it. I'm calling the county offices to find the wills and to find the deeds. And I'm going to help them. And instead of getting frustrated, I have to just do what I need to do if this is important for us.
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked to friends, and like you mentioned, my homie Nosa Foster, or CJ, he lives down in Mobile, Alabama. He found out his family has land out in Georgia somehow, but it's that same issue. Some cousin is not really trying to do anything with it, but also doesn't want anyone else to do anything with it.
Why not?
Now, these are the $1 million questions.
I mean, no. That was a rhetorical question.
Yeah, it's amazing. But I think that's going to be real. For us as a community, we have to have those real conversations and be willing to do some difficult research.
Mm-hmm.
But we can, if we can spend 5 hours playing video games and figuring out how to unlock the super secret, whatever door, we can figure out how to call some county offices. We can figure out how to talk to some county clerk and get the information we need.
Okay, so you bring that up, brings me to another question. There's a lot of talk about, digital stuff. Like, okay, we got NFTs, we got just digital stuff, or even IP stuff. At the end of the day, what everything is based on is something that's tangible. Land is tangible. We know land is tangible. What are your thoughts on that? Like, I'm gonna leave the question just like that. What are your thoughts on people going really hard into these other markets or whatever, and not really focusing on something that is very, very, very tangible? Like, it's tangible. You can touch land. I can sit there, put my hand on the ground, and it's land. It is something that somebody pays taxes on and owns and all that. What are your thoughts on that, real quick?
Maybe it's like what's available to you. As an independent artist, I've come out of hip hop, so I'm used to not having much at all. And you make your own equipment, you figure out how to throw your own shows, and you start small. So when we first did shows, we didn't have a venue. We couldn't afford to rent a venue, so we found a bar that didn't charge us and would give us a percentage of alcohol sales. We then took that money. And then you flip that so that you can rent a space, but then you control the door and you can charge at the door. Then you take that money and you save that, and then you get your own venue. So if you want to use digital or crypto to start, because it only takes $100 and you can turn that into 500. Okay, turn that into 500. Now what? Some people might want to keep it digital. Other people might want to buy T-shirts and then flip those T-shirts into $1,500.
100%.
Take that $1,500 and you build with the homie, and you might start a lawn service. And then you take that money and you flip that. And it may take a couple years, but I don't know if you saw that Dave Chappelle, like with Wu-Tang, you got to diversify your portfolio.
Your bonds, nigga. Right. 100%.
You know?
100%.
I will say this, Amazon and all those companies, they have land to hold their servers for their cloud storage.
Oh, yeah.
So,
like, Amazon has really eaten off of the fact of, they destroy retail, quote unquote. Like, malls are pretty much extinct. Not really. It's like these empty mall spaces, whatever, have had to be converted somehow, some way. And then all the manufacturing places, that's where Amazon is doing their storage stuff, not only for the servers, but also as fulfillment centers, closer for like. And it seems like yesterday, I remember Amazon being just like a small thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I don't know how old you are. I'm 37. I remember when people were talking about Amazon back in the day, and it was like, okay, cool. Whatever. The whole .com bubble stuff. You know what I'm saying? And all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay. I see what you're talking about. Taking that investment and you put it back in. Like, I already know that Amazon was only been profitable for the past 2 or 3 years, because all they've done is what you were saying. We take those profits, but you dump it right back into the company. Take the profit, and they've just built off of that.
Yeah. And I think I was never given those type of financial tools. Growing up, it was like, you're a kid, this is grown folk money talk. You play with your little cars or whatever else. No one in my family is an entrepreneur. Now, my family, everyone worked a lot. And so I learned about hard work from my mom, single mother. She had multiple jobs. She made sure I went to the best school she could put me in. She made sure you better learn, you better work. But it was also, I grew up in Washington, D.C., where a lot of people work for the government. A lot of people work for institutions. You don't have that same entrepreneurial spirit as then when I moved to Atlanta and I started meeting people that they weren't hustlers like dope. They were hustlers like, whatever the resources I got, I'm going to flip it. And I started reading like about when the Tuskegee Institute got built. They built their own schoolhouses and then started selling the town bricks. And then used that to create a school to educate their community, to then go be engineers, to be plumbers, to be electricians, to be farmers, and to provide for self and others. And then I moved to New York and I learned, people will flip land. You can have a closet and somehow somebody's paying $1,500 to live in that closet. And I started realizing like some of my family, it made sense they did what they did from the time period they were in.
Yeah.
But we are losing land and we need to be focused on how do we buy not just houses and flip to make money, but how do we own property and land and space? We saw through this pandemic, if people wanted to get out of the city, I don't know how many people I know who are like, oh, I'm just going to leave and go to my second house in North Carolina, my second house in wherever. They were all white. My black friends wasn't leaving to go anywhere.
What? Crazy. Ridiculous.
And it's not about emulating white folks. It's about the reality of if you need to get out the city, you better own somewhere to go.
Boom. What do you think? And like I said, you just bring up another point. Kanye in Wyoming. Was that a smart move? Was that? I mean, like everybody looked at him like it's Wyoming. It's Wyoming.
Yeah. Brilliant. Brilliant. When the thing that really pushed this, I went to Colorado, and I was on the west side of the Rockies in Grand Junction.
Uh-huh.
It's so much space out there. It's not like Denver. It's not like, some of the flat parts of the Midwest. It's this gorgeous mountainous land with valleys and farmland. I didn't realize Colorado had so much farmland and ranch land. And I was asking my friend, who owns all this stuff? And she's like, Bureau of Land Management owns a lot of it. And they open it up to people once every while and sell off huge tracts of land. I'm talking thousands of acres. I never even heard of 1,000 acres. I'm with 1,000 acres. I don't even, what you talking about? And so I started looking into Colorado and Wyoming.
Yeah.
And Wyoming has the same number of people in that whole state as Washington, D.C. Yet they get 2 senators. And so I started thinking how you could flip the political game going into areas with that little density of population. And then I was like, no one I know is willing to move out there. But you can start a solar farm. You can start a wind farm. You can invest in that property. And then I started learning how people were doing that. And then within 2 or 3 years later, Kanye bought all that property.
Who?
People are going to say he's nuts, but nah, he knows. He knows what's
yeah.
Now, and one of the things we are trying to figure out for people is I'm not ready to leave the city like full time. So I'm not even telling everyone they have to move to Wyoming. These companies that are buying land out in the middle of the country, their families still live in the cities, but they are active in the policies and the legal actions being taken out in these parts of the country. And they're setting themselves up for 50 years from now, 100 years from now. There's no new land being made except like in Hawaii when the volcanoes like make the land. But
exactly.
And so it's prep, it's investment, it's forward thinking.
It's the exact same 30% of land that's always going to be on Earth. It's always going to be 70% water. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, I can see that.
And it opens up an idea of how many black folks am I around that are encouraged to own wind farms. That's not what I grew up with people telling me. People told me you need to be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, a teacher. If you're going to be a trash man, you better own the trash company and be the best in the world. But nobody was like, get into renewable energy. So wow. That's kind of just what motivated me.
Wow. Man, look, I know you got to go. I know it's 9:00 up there. I know you got to do all this. We can sit here for another hour and just talk about everything, because you are very knowledgeable. But let everybody know where they can find you. Let everybody, shameless plug right now, man. Shameless plug.
It's easy. blacklandownership.com. And I was surprised I could buy that site. When I looked online and I searched for black land ownership, I was like, why isn't this already taken? There have to be 50,000 people already doing what I'm doing.
Nope.
And it's really, people are into affordable housing. People are into farming, agriculture. But the idea of like, let's collectively build. And like you said, the plumbers, the engineers, the electricians, the construction workers, the contractors, the roofers, people that can put in the insulation. Like, let's start linking and putting these parts together, because that's the community.
Bro, I'm telling you, like I have a similar story like you. I was like, man, let me see if Renovate Pensacola is available. RenovatePensacola.com is available. And it was available. And I was like, nobody just said put the word renovate and my city together and just be like, yo, let's do something with this. Bought it like that same night.
Yep.
And just said, like, look, I'm just going to interview black contractors, black general contractors, black electric. Like, that's what we're going to do. Because where I'm at, no lie, it is a very it's white. Like, let's just be real. It's white. There's just, I mean, it's you know, and there's reminders here. You know what I'm saying? It's not bad, but it's like there are reminders here. You know, that's like, oh, okay. You know, I'd rather, you know, and it comes to that thinking of, there have been a couple of black people who, nah, you know, you trying to get over us, because like my dad's a general contractor. Oh, you trying to get over on this, but then we'll go, you know, to the white person and be like, oh yeah, that's good, and then they may mess up.
Yeah,
I have to call my dad right back, and it's like,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So it's like there's like you said, education, big mentality of like where does that stuff start? It starts, like you're saying, land ownership. Where does it start? It starts with black contractors actually talking about stuff. You know, it starts, you know, if we're going to really build a community, let's really build a community. Let's just not be about, you know, let's just not talk about it. Let's be about it. You know, and we're in a very nice spot to be about it.
I appreciate what you also are saying. I just went down to Sarasota, Florida.
Yeah.
And next to Sarasota is Bradenton. And in Sarasota, they're like no black people. Almost all the black people are in the adjacent town.
Yeah.
And I started seeing how me just being around talking to people, folks are like, yeah, kind of cautious, or kind of like, you talking about black people as if you want to keep separation. And it's like, no. I work with everybody, but I also recognize a lot of people don't work with us. And I need to be real clear about the community I'm here to support.
There you go.
The community I came from. But through this work, I had to learn more about what happened to the indigenous people in this country. Definitely. What's happened to women, what's happened to trans folks, what's happened to queer folks, and how they've been displaced, how their lives have been threatened. And our whole thing is, we down to work with anybody who works with us and who's on the level. But it's about black land ownership right now because it hasn't been for so long.
You can't be a part of all the world if you are focused on just black issues. And that's one of the things, like even last year, one of my homeboys who was on the podcast that we did last year, he was just like, I have no problem with anybody else's, you know, mission and stuff. But don't bash me if I'm not aligned with y'all's mission right now, because I only care about black people right now. Period. I don't need to know anything else over that, because I'm black, and as a collective of us being black, I need to care about you. The end. And I understand exactly what you're talking about when it comes to that. It's like our mission is this. Our mission is black.
I mean, simple numbers. There were more farmers that were black in 1890 than now. And that shouldn't be possible statistically. There are 300 million people.
Yeah. You're getting too deep for the people right now. You're getting too deep for the people right now.
And so I'll leave y'all with that.
No. I want you to just say that one more time. We're definitely going to have another interview. We're going to definitely put you on something like where you can really go deep, you know. But I want you to say that one more time. Say it one more time.
But statistically, by pure numbers, there were more black farmers in 1890 than now. And people will say that's because everyone moved to the cities. No. We lost 94% of our farmlands. All right. And that was on purpose.
Go to Burnt Corn, Alabama. Go to Evergreen, Alabama. Go to anywhere in Louisiana, like right there, not in New Orleans. I'm talking about in the countryside. Go anywhere in Mississippi. Go anywhere, you know, Marianna, Florida. There is just anywhere in Georgia, the country towns in Georgia, where it's like there are black people just sitting there, just whatever, and hey, I'm going to just buy this. Pennies on a dollar, but they don't know what the land's worth because of education. Wow.
So
wow.
Here to, I try not to do these interviews and just drop statistics because I think it doesn't humanize it. But if people are interested, if you go to our website, we do have the statistics. We went through the USDA information. I can talk to people about the Pickford case and the history of the USDA being racist. I can talk about redlining. I can talk about what happened with the Homesteading Act and how it didn't include black people, the GI Bill, how it didn't include black people. I can go into all this stuff if you're interested, and it's on the site.
Oh, they're interested. They're interested. If they're watching the show right now, they're interested. You know why? Because it's Promise Man on the Pop-Up Podcast. This is what we do. We are talking about, I'm telling you, Juneteenth is all of June, period. I don't care what, like, you might think that it's a federal, you know, oh, there's Black History Month in February. No, it's June.
And we do it all day, every day. So I appreciate you bringing me on, and I'll send you a note with my direct info. Also, I'd love to hear more about what y'all are doing down in Florida.
Hey, we just started, man. Like I said, I mean, ain't nobody else doing it. I was just like, hey, I'm going to interview black people. We're going to do these, you know, shows or whatever. We're going to interview. I'm going to sit there and do a couple renovations and stuff. I mean, and that was just it. And it was like, I do stuff. I don't sit there and be like, oh, let me see if I can refine it. And I ain't got the time for that. I don't have the time for that. Like, we don't have the time to sit here and, you know, it's another 50 years before, you know, whatever. And then asking permission. That's the other thing I hate. Like black people want to have permission to do stuff. For what?
I don't understand that. And I think I'm lucky in that coming from hip hop, I wasn't allowed to do a whole lot that I did. And we did it. And it was dope. And it provided ways for young black men to express themselves, young black women to express themselves. Folks that normally got silenced were able to be put on a stage and share their dreams with the world through hip hop. And so I take that mentality into all this to where we don't wait, we take it. But I don't mean like violence. I mean, we understand the science on it. I mean, we understand the actual context of where we are, and you learn the rules of the matrix to break it.
That's it. That is it. Hey, we can sit here and talk all night, man. Promise Man on Pop-Up Podcast. Brother, I'm so glad that you, and if you don't know, literally, we met today. My homeboy saw my video and said, look, I'm going to send you all these links to people up here in New York you need to interview. Literally 2 hours ago, it was like, hey, yo, you want to do an interview tonight? Yeah, let's go.
Let's run it.
That's it, because we ain't got time to play. Okay? We ain't got time to play. Promise Man on Pop-Up Podcast. Blab TV. Oh, and don't forget, it's Bank Shot all day as well. What is that? Let me get my hat real quick. Bank Shot. Bank Shot. You know, Bank Shot. We got the basketball horse competition coming. July is going to be crazy. And don't forget to also register for the Juneteenth Classic, where you can play against anybody in the country for a prize. I ain't going to say the prize yet because like we're trying to get everything done, but you play virtually over Zoom, and yeah, we're doing stuff. That's it. Promise.
Thank you for bringing me on. Peace and love, everybody. I only want to say on my way out that no matter what people tell you, you have an effect on the world around you, and you are immensely powerful. So I appreciate you. It's peace. It's love.
Definitely. Holler at y'all a little bit later.
All right, peace, bro.
Oh, you can stay on. Stay on for 1 second.
Okay.